The silence of deep space shattered like glass as the alien warship materialized from the quantum void. Commander Jake Morrison's coffee cup slipped from his fingers, floating in the zero gravity of the command deck as his heart hammered against his ribs. The massive vessel stretched across his view screen like a metallic mountain range, its hull gleaming with technologies that humanity could barely comprehend. "Jesus Christ," whispered Ensign Tommy Park from the navigation station, his voice barely audible over the humming of life support systems. The young officer's hands trembled as he ran sensor sweeps, each beep confirming what they all feared: this single alien ship could vaporize their entire fleet without breaking a sweat. Jake forced himself to breathe, drawing on 20 years of military training to keep his voice steady. The weight of command had never felt heavier. Behind him, 47 crew members looked to him for leadership, their faces reflecting the same mixture of awe and terror that churned in his gut. 3 months ago, they'd been humanity's pride, the most advanced deep space exploration fleet ever assembled. Well, they felt like cavemen staring at a fighter jet. "Sir, they're hailing us," Lieutenant Katie Wells reported, her fingers dancing across the communications console with practiced efficiency. Despite her calm exterior, Jake noticed the slight tremor in her voice, the way her shoulders tensed with barely controlled fear. Katie had survived the Martian colonial wars, faced down pirates in the Outer Rim, but this was different. This was first contact with a species that could end human civilization with a thought. The main view screen flickered to life with an almost casual elegance that somehow made everything worse. The alien that appeared before them was a nightmare, wrapped in diplomatic courtesy. Ambassador Velthor of the Korathian Empire stood nearly 8 feet tall, his chitinous exoskeleton gleaming like polished obsidian. For eyes, each the size of a human fist, regarded them with the kind of cold calculation that predators reserve for prey. "Greetings." Humans, Velthor's translator, rendered his clicking, chittering speech into perfectly enunciated English. Mechanical voice carried an undertone of amusement that made Jake's skin crawl. "We come with an offer of ... friendship." The pause before friendship lasted exactly 2.3 seconds. Jake's enhanced reflexes counted automatically. That wasn't accidental. It was a power play. Subtle reminder that friendship was a gift the Korathians could withdraw at any moment. Jake's jaw clenched so hard he thought his teeth might crack. 3 human colonies had gone dark in the past month, all near Korathian. Space. New Shanghai with its population of 12 million. The research station at Kepler 44 to be where his brother Tom had been working on terraforming projects. The mining colony on Proxima Centauri where families had built new lives among the stars. Now this creature wanted to talk about friendship. You know what they say about friends who show up uninvited with enough firepower to level a planet, right? They're usually not friends at all. "What kind of offer?" Jake demanded, his voice carrying the authority of someone who'd earned his rank through blood and sacrifice rather than political connections. Every word was measured, controlled, but underneath burned a fury that could melt steel. Velthor's mandibles clicked with what the xenobiology reports identified as amusement. The sound was like fingernails on a chalkboard, designed to unnerve human psychology. "We've observed your struggles with faster-than-light travel, crude fusion drives. Limited range, so ... primitive." The alien's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a gesture that somehow conveyed both pity and contempt. "We could ... help. Our warp technology could advance your species by centuries." Behind Jake, Chief Engineer Marcus Rodriguez leaned forward from warp, his position at the engineering console, his weathered face grim with professional concern. Rodriguez had been building starships since before Jake was born, had revolutionized fusion drive efficiency, and held 17 patents on quantum field manipulation. His whispered words carried the weight of 3 decades of experience. "Sir, their energy readings are off the charts. Whatever's powering that ship is exactly what they're offering us." Jake finished grimly, his mind racing through the implications. The aliens weren't here to help. They were here to enslave humanity with technological dependence, to turn Earth into a client state that would dance to their tune for generations. The pattern was as old as civilization itself. The Romans had done it to Celtic tribes, offering advanced weapons and technology in exchange for loyalty. The British Empire had perfected it, using industrial superiority to control entire continents. Now the Corinthians were playing the same game on a galactic scale. But here's the thing about humans that aliens consistently underestimate. We don't just use tools. We improve them. We take them apart, figure out how they work, and then we make them better, sometimes dangerously better. Listening, Jake said, his voice steady, despite the rage building in his chest like a nuclear reactor approaching critical mass. Every fiber of his being screamed warnings, but he needed to hear their proposal. Know your enemy, his old drill sergeant used to say. Let them think they're winning right up until the moment you destroy them. The trap was about to be sprung. Its mechanisms as predictable as clockwork. Velthar would offer humanity warp technology, probably in exchange for territorial concessions. Resource rights, maybe even political submission. They'd dangle the carrot of advancement while holding the stick of military superiority. What the ambassador didn't realize was that he was about to hand humanity the keys to the galaxy. Because when you show a human how something works, you're not just sharing knowledge, you're issuing a challenge. And humans have never met a challenge they couldn't overcome. The next few hours would determine whether humanity remained trapped in its small corner of the galaxy or exploded across the stars like a supernova. But Velthor had no idea who he was dealing with. He was about to learn why humans had conquered their own planet, survived ice ages, and built civilizations from nothing but determination and ingenuity. The greatest mistake in galactic history was about to unfold, and Jake Morrison had a front-row seat to watch it happen. Speaking of explosive transformations, if you want to understand how small changes can create massive results over time, check out my next video about the incredible power of compounding ware. I'll show you how tiny improvements compound into extraordinary outcomes, just like humanity's about to do with alien technology. Dr. Emily Carter's hands trembled like autumn leaves as she scrolled through the Coratheon, technical data streaming across her workstation. The holographic displays cast an eerie blue glow across her face, illuminating eyes that had seen humanity's greatest scientific achievements, but nothing quite like this. Her coffee had gone cold hours ago, forgotten in the rush of discovery that threatened to rewrite everything she thought she knew about physics. The aliens had been surprisingly generous, suspiciously generous, sharing detailed schematics of their warp drive technology with the casual ease of someone handing out business cards at a networking event. Too generous, her instincts screamed. In 30 years of theoretical physics, Emily had learned that when something seemed too good to be true, it usually was. This is incredible, she breathed to her colleague, Dr. Brian Hayes, who hunched over his own workstation like a man possessed. The research lab buzzed with the quiet intensity of breakthrough moments, that electric atmosphere when human understanding stands on the precipice of quantum leaps. They're showing us quantum field manipulation that should be impossible with our current understanding. Look at these equations. They're actually bending space-time into pretzel shapes. Brian's weathered face, marked by decades of late nights and failed experiments, creased into a frown that could have carved granite. His fingers danced across holographic interfaces with the practiced precision of a concert pianist, pulling up power consumption charts that made his blood run cold. Look at these power requirements, Em. This needs exotic matter we can't even produce. Matter that exists in theory, but might as well be unicorn tears for all our ability to synthesize it. He gestured at the scrolling data with the kind of frustrated energy that comes from seeing a solution just out of reach. It's like showing a caveman blueprints for a nuclear reactor. Sure, it's impressive, but good luck building one with sticks and stones. Emily's initial excitement began curdling into something darker, more suspicious. Her scientific mind, trained to question everything, started connecting dots that painted an uncomfortable picture. What if that's the point? What if they're showing us something we can't actually build? Her voice carried the edge of someone who just realized they'd been played. What if this is psychological warfare disguised as scientific cooperation? The implications hit her like a physical blow. The Carathians weren't sharing technology, they were demonstrating superiority while ensuring dependence. Classic manipulation. tactics wrapped in the shiny package of advanced physics. Meanwhile, 3 decks above in the observation lounge, Commander Morrison watched the alien delegation through reinforced transparent aluminum. His fists clenched so tight his knuckles had gone white. The Carathians moved with the fluid grace of apex predators, their 4 eyes constantly scanning, cataloging, evaluating. They weren't guests, they were conquerors taking inventory. Assessment Rodriguez. Morrison's voice carried the weight of command decisions that could determine humanity's future. His chief engineer had been studying the technical readouts for 6 hours straight, his expression growing grimmer with each passing moment. Chief Engineer Rodriguez looked up from his tablet, his face bearing the expression of a man who'd just discovered termites in his foundation. "Sir, this technology could revolutionize space travel. We're talking about crossing the galaxy in weeks instead of centuries. But the dependency factor is enormous. We'd need their exotic matter, their manufacturing processes, their expertise. For maintenance and upgrades." Rodriguez's voice carried the bitter taste of recognition. He'd seen this playbook before. During the corporate wars of the 2180s, when megacorporations used proprietary technology to control entire star systems. It's the ultimate vendor lock-in, sir. They give us the car, but keep the keys to the gas station.
Making us their technological slaves.
Morrison growled, his military mind immediately grasping the strategic implications. Classic power play. They're not offering us advancement, they're offering us addiction. You know what they say about free lunch, right? It's usually the most expensive meal you'll ever eat. But below them, in the humming research lab where humanity's brightest minds wrestled with alien physics, Dr. Carter had isolated something strange in the quantum equations. Her trained eye, honed by decades of peer review and scientific skepticism, caught patterns that seemed unnecessarily complex, like mathematical origami folded over and over until the simple became incomprehensible. "Brian," she called out, her voice carrying that dangerous edge of excitement that had preceded every major breakthrough in her career. "Come look at this. These field generation sequences, they're using 17 different exotic matter interactions to create a single warp bubble." Brian hurried over, his own excitement building as he followed her pointing finger across the holographic display. The equations flowed like digital waterfalls, beautiful and complex, and somehow ... wrong. What if this isn't advanced technology at all? Emily's voice trembled with the kind of revelation that reshapes entire worldviews. What if it's just overcomplicated? What if they're doing the equivalent of using a sledgehammer to crack a walnut? The silence that followed was deafening. 2 of humanity's greatest scientific minds stared at alien equations that suddenly looked less like advanced physics and more like elaborate stage magic, impressive, mysterious, but ultimately hiding something much simpler underneath. Brian's fingers flew across his interface, stripping away layers of complexity, like an archaeologist uncovering ancient treasures. "Emily, if we eliminate these redundant field interactions and focus on the core principles..." His voice trailed off as the implications hit him like a freight train. "We might be looking at technology that's not more advanced than ours," Emily whispered, her eyes wide with the kind of realization that topples empires. "It's just different, more complicated, but not necessarily better." The breakthrough was coming, building like a tsunami that would reshape the balance of power across the galaxy. Humanity's greatest strength had always been its ability to take complex problems and find elegant solutions, while other species built elaborate monuments to their own intelligence. Humans built better mousetraps, and in the next few hours, they were about to build a better warp drive than the species that had mastered interstellar travel for millennia. The hunters were about to become the hunted, and they had no idea what was coming. The stage was set for humanity's greatest magic trick turning alien arrogance into human advantage through the simple power of asking, "What if there's a better way?" Speaking of finding better ways to achieve incredible results, you want to see my next video about the power of compounding, where I reveal how small, consistent improvements can create massive transformations over time, just like these scientists are about to do with alien technology. The alarm screamed through the research deck at 0347 hours, like banshees announcing the apocalypse. Emergency lights bathed the corridors in pulsing red as Dr. Emily Carter sprinted through the ship's passages, her lab coat billowing behind her like a cape of scientific fury. Her heart hammered against her ribs with the rhythm of breakthrough and revolution, each footstep echoing with the weight of discovery that would reshape galactic civilization. She burst into the command center with the explosive energy of a woman who'd just unlocked the secrets of the universe. Officers turned in shock as she skidded to a halt before Commander Morrison. Her hair wild from 72 hours of non-stop research, her eyes blazing with the kind of triumph that topples empires. "Commander Morrison," she gasped, her voice crackling with electricity. "We've cracked it. We've reverse-engineered their warp drive." The command center fell silent except for the ambient hum of life support systems. Every eye in the room turned to Ambassador Velthar, whose 4 optical organs had been tracking the conversation with the smug satisfaction of a predator watching trapped prey. For 72 hours, he'd observed human confusion with the patient amusement of someone watching children play with toys. He couldn't possibly understand. But now his breathing apparatus constricted with the metallic rasp of sudden fear. Mandibles clicked in rapid succession, the Corytheon equivalent of a human stammering in shock. "Impossible." Belthar's translator rendered his chittering speech with mechanical precision, but couldn't hide the tremor of panic underneath. "The complexity of our quantum field manipulation requires millennia of development, exotic matter, synthesis capabilities your species doesn't possess, and mathematical frameworks that requires nothing." Carter snapped, her anger overriding 3 decades of diplomatic training and professional courtesy. The fury that had been building since she'd first suspected the aliens' manipulation now erupted like a solar flare. "Your technology is brilliant. I'll give you that, but it's massively over-engineered. You're using 23 different exotic matter interactions to achieve what can be done with 4? She strode to the central holographic display with the predatory grace of a hunter moving in for the kill. Her fingers danced across the interface with surgical precision, calling up the fruits of humanity's greatest scientific achievement. "Look here. WARP field generates quantum cascades through multiple dimensional layers, each one requiring specialized exotic matter that takes centuries to synthesize." The display bloomed to life, showing the Corytheon warp drive in all its unnecessary complexity. Layers upon layers of quantum field manipulations, each one more elaborate than the last. Like a Rube Goldberg machine designed by committee and built by committee. But strip away the redundancies and focus on the core principle. Carter's voice carried the satisfaction of a magician revealing the trick that had fooled the audience. With a gesture, she simplified the display, removing layer after layer of complexity until the fundamental physics stood naked and exposed. The result was elegant in its simplicity, a warp field generated by conventional matter-antimatter reactions, focused through crystalline matrices that humanity could manufacture with existing technology. No exotic matter.
Oh.
No millennium development cycles. Just pure, beautiful physics working exactly as the universe intended. You know what they say about the best solutions, right? They're usually the simplest ones, hiding underneath all the complicated nonsense, Dr. Bryan. Hayes materialized beside Carter like a scientific cavalry charge, his tablet loaded with simulation data that would rewrite textbooks across the galaxy. His voice trembled with excitement that could barely be contained by professional composure. "We've run full simulations on quantum computers, tested every variable, stress-tested the field equations under extreme conditions. This simplified version is actually more efficient than your original design." He gestured to the streaming data with the enthusiasm of a man who'd just discovered fire. "It's faster by a factor of 3, uses 60% less power, achieves more stable field coherence, and doesn't require exotic matter synthesis. We can build this with materials we mine from asteroids." The silence that followed was deafening. Ambassador Velthor's 4 eyes went completely still, the Corytheon equivalent of a human's jaw dropping to the floor. His breathing apparatus cycled rapidly, processing oxygen with the desperate efficiency of someone whose world had just collapsed. "You... ... His translator struggled to render the alien shock into human language. "You've improved upon technology that took my people millennia to develop. technology that represents the pinnacle of our civilization's achievement, in less than 3 rotations of your planet. Commander Morrison stepped forward, his smile carrying the predatory satisfaction of a wolf that had just realized the shepherd was actually another wolf in disguise. His voice carried the authority of a man who'd spent his career turning enemy weapons against their creators. We tend to be good at taking things apart and putting them back together. It's what we do to our enemies. The words hung in the air like a declaration of war. Morrison's smile widened as he watched the implications sink into the ambassador's consciousness. See, you thought you were showing us your superior technology, but what you really did was hand us your weaknesses wrapped in a pretty bow. Carter nodded with savage satisfaction. Your people developed this technology as the ultimate expression of your engineering philosophy complex. Elaborate, requiring rare materials that ensure dependence. But complexity isn't advancement, it's just complexity. The revelation hit. Velthair like a physical blow. The Koratheon Empire's carefully orchestrated plan to enslave humanity through technological dependence had just backfired spectacularly. They'd given humans the keys to galactic domination, thinking they were handing out toys to children. But here's the thing about humans that aliens consistently underestimate. We don't just learn from our mistakes, we learn from everyone else's mistakes too. And right now, the Koratheans had just made the biggest mistake in galactic history. Your empire built this technology to maintain control, Morrison continued, his voice carrying the weight of inevitable consequence. You made it complicated so only you could build it, maintain it, improve it. But humans don't think like that. They think like engineers, not politicians. The ambassador realized with growing horror that the Empire's most carefully guarded secret had become humanity's greatest weapon in trying to create technological dependence. They'd handed humans the tools to surpass them completely. Dr. Carter's eyes blazed with the fire of scientific revolution. Within 6 months, every human ship will be equipped with warp drives that make yours look like steam engines.
How your
Technological advantage just became our technological superiority. The trap that had been intended to ensnare humanity had just become the weapon that would free them from the constraints of their small corner of the galaxy. And in the process, they'd learned the most important lesson of all. Sometimes the most advanced solution is the simplest one. Speaking of simple solutions that create massive results, you'll want to check out my next video about the power of compounding, where I reveal how small, consistent improvements can build exponential advantages over time. Just like these scientists turned alien complexity into human simplicity. News of the breakthrough spread through the human fleet like wildfire, consuming a dry forest. Within minutes, encrypted communications channels buzzed with the kind of excitement that reshapes civilizations. Engineers abandoned their sleep cycles, physicists canceled their meals, and manufacturing specialists worked with the manic energy of people who'd just discovered the secret to turning lead into gold. Chief Engineer Marcus Rodriguez hadn't slept in 36 hours, but his eyes burned with a kind of caffeinated brilliance that comes from witnessing the impossible become inevitable. His engineering bay had transformed into a symphony of controlled chaos, sparks flying from welding torches, holographic blueprints floating like digital ghosts, and the steady hum of 3D molecular printers working overtime to birth humanity's future. The beauty of it, Rodriguez explained to Commander Morrison, his voice thick with excitement and exhaustion, is that it scales exponentially. Their technology was like using a fusion bomb to light a candle. Impressive, sure, but wasteful. Beyond belief? Morrison watched 3 prototype warp cores taking shape with the precision of master craftsmen building cathedrals. Each core was smaller than the Koratheon equivalent, more elegant and infinitely more efficient. How long until we can retrofit the entire fleet? Rodriguez's grin could have powered a small city, sir. With our manufacturing capabilities and the simplified design, we can have 50 ships equipped within the week. The Korathians spent centuries perfecting their overcomplicated system. We've just made it obsolete in 72 hours. The sound of human ingenuity at work filled the air, the whistle of plasma cutters, the harmonic resonance of quantum field generators, and the satisfied grunts of engineers who'd just solved problems that had stumped alien civilizations for millennia. But while humanity celebrated, panic spread through the Corathane flagship like a virus consuming its host. Emergency war councils had been running for 18 hours straight, and the polished corridors of the Empire's most advanced vessel echoed with the chittering anxiety of a species that had just realized they'd handed their enemies the keys to galactic domination. Ambassador Velthair stood before the holographic forms of the Empire's high command, his usually pristine exoskeleton dulled by stress and his 4 eyes darting with the nervous energy of prey that had just spotted the hunter. His composure, built over decades of diplomatic success, lay in scattered pieces around his feet. "They've not only replicated our technology," he reported, his voice cracking with the kind of fear that comes from witnessing the impossible. "They've made it superior. Their version achieves warp factor 15 efficiency with the energy requirements. A factor 8. The holographic chamber erupted in chaos. Supreme Commander Zarketh's image flickered with rage that could have melted steel, his mandibles clicking with the rapid-fire intensity of a machine gun. How is this possible? We tested them extensively, their mathematics, their engineering principles, their technological capabilities. They showed no signs of such advanced understanding. You know what they say about assumptions, right? They make an ass out of you, and, well, in this case, an entire galactic empire. It's because they think like predators," Velthor admitted, his voice hollow with the weight of civilizational failure. "Where we see complexity as sophistication, as proof of our intellectual superiority, they see it as a weakness to exploit. They don't just learn our technology, they dissect it like a surgeon, understand it like a physicist, and rebuild it as a weapon like a warrior." Fleet Commander Kethver's image materialized in the chamber, his 4 eyes wide with tactical horror. "Ambassador, our intelligence networks report that human manufacturing facilities are already producing these simplified warp cores. They're not just building 1 or 2 for testing, they're gearing up for mass production." The implications hit the High Command like a meteor strike. The Carathians had spent the last 3 centuries carefully managing their technological advantages, doling out obsolete systems to client species while keeping their best innovations locked away. Now humanity was about to leapfrog their entire technological hierarchy in a matter of weeks. Meanwhile, back on the human research vessel, Dr. Carter had already moved past celebration into the next phase of human evolution. With the kind of focused intensity that had put humans on the moon, split the atom, and built civilizations from nothing but determination and curiosity. "If we can streamline the field generation process further," she said, her fingers dancing across holographic equations with the precision of a concert pianist, "we might achieve stable warp fields without antimatter at all, just 0-point energy. Fluctuations harvested directly from the quantum foam." Her assistant, Dr. Michael Chen, looked up from his calculations with the expression of a man who'd just seen the future and found it beautiful. His voice trembled with excitement that could barely be contained by professional composure. "Doctor Carter, that would revolutionize not just propulsion, but our entire understanding of physics. We'd be talking about free energy, unlimited range, and speeds that make current warp technology look like a horse and buggy." Carter's grin carried the predatory satisfaction of a hunter who'd just realized her prey was actually much bigger than expected. "I know. And when we're done, every human ship will be faster than their entire fleet combined. We'll go from technological dependence to technological dominance in less time than it takes them to file a diplomatic protest." The transformation was already beginning. Human shipyards that had been producing conventional fusion drives were retooling for warp core production. Mining operations were being redirected to harvest the rare crystals needed for field-focusing arrays. And across human space, the best minds of the species were working with the kind of coordinated intensity that had built empires and conquered worlds. Dr. Hayes burst into the laboratory with the enthusiasm of a man bearing gifts. "Just run the optimization protocols on the Mark to design. We can increase efficiency by another 40% if we adjust the quantum field resonance frequencies." The room fell silent except for the hum of quantum computers processing equations that would reshape the balance of power across the galaxy. Carter's eyes blazed with the fire of scientific revolution as she realized the full implications of what they'd accomplished. The Carathians wanted to control human expansion, she said, her voice carrying the weight of historical inevitability. Instead, they've just weaponized it. In 6 months, humanity will have the fastest, most efficient fleet in the galaxy. In a year, we'll have ships that can cross the entire galaxy in days rather than decades. The trap that had been designed to enslave humanity had just become the catalyst for their greatest leap forward. And somewhere in the depths of space, alien civilizations were about to learn why you should never underestimate a species that had climbed to the top of their food chain by being better, faster, and more innovative than everything else in their path. Speaking of optimization and exponential growth, you'll want to see my next video about the power of compounding, where I reveal how small, consistent improvements can create massive advantages over time. It's just like these human engineers turned alien complexity into galactic dominance. 6 months later, the Corythian homeworld's morning sky erupted in brilliant flashes of light as the first human dreadnought equipped with the Mark VI warp drive materialized directly above their capital city. The massive vessel, sleek and predatory in its efficiency, cast a shadow across the sprawling metropolis below, a shadow that would darken the Corythian Empire forever. The ship was a monument to human ingenuity, its hull gleaming with the kind of technological confidence that comes from turning your enemy's greatest weapon into your own. Where Corythian vessels were ornate and ceremonial, this human dreadnought was pure function, every line designed for speed, every surface optimized for warfare, every system built to dominate. Ambassador Velthor stood in the same chamber where this nightmare had begun 6 months ago, but now the positions were catastrophically reversed. The polished walls that had once reflected his species' superiority now seemed to mock him with their emptiness. His 4 eyes, dulled by months of sleepless nights and strategic failures, tracked the incoming transmission with the resignation of a condemned man. Commander Morrison's image flickered to life on the view screen. But he wasn't alone. Behind him stood the human fleet, dozens of vessels that had crossed the galaxy in days rather than years. Each one a testament to humanity's terrifying ability to improve upon anything they touched. Ambassador, Morrison's voice carried the weight of absolute victory, seasoned with just enough courtesy to make the defeat more bitter. We wanted to thank you in person. Your gift of warp technology has been ... transformative. Hung in the air like a death sentence, Velthor's breathing apparatus cycled rapidly as he processed the implications. His people's most carefully guarded secret had become humanity's greatest weapon, and they had delivered it personally with all the ceremony of a state dinner. Morrison's fleet had arrived first. Despite leaving after the Corythian recall order, the impossible had become routine. Human ships now outpaced Corythian vessels by factors that defied comprehension. The hunters had become the hunted, and the prey had evolved into apex predators. Velthor's defeat was complete, but the scientist in him had to understand the mechanics of his species' downfall. How, he asked, his voice carrying the hollow echo of civilizational failure. How did you not just replicate our technology, but weaponize it so quickly? Dr. Emily Carter stepped into view, her new title Chief Military Innovation Officer glowing beneath her image like a badge of conquest. Her eyes carried the cold satisfaction of someone who had turned alien arrogance into human advantage through pure intellectual firepower. You showed us a lock and expected us to be grateful for the key, she said, her voice carrying the kind of clinical precision that made her words cut deeper than any blade. But humans don't just use tools, we perfect them, take them apart, understand them down to their quantum foundations, and then we make them into weapons. You know what they say about giving humans technology, right? It's like giving dynamite to a species that invented bigger explosions as a hobby. Dr. Brian Hayes materialized beside Carter, his expression carrying the weight of scientific revolution. Your people developed warp technology as the culmination of your civilization's achievement. You perfected it, made it sacred, untouchable. But perfection is the enemy of evolution. The words struck Velthar like physical blows. His species had spent millennia refining their warp drives, treating each improvement as a sacred ritual rather than an engineering challenge. They had built monuments to their own intelligence, while humans built better mousetraps. Commander Morrison nodded grimly, his smile carrying the predatory satisfaction of a chess master delivering checkmate. We saw your technology not as a finished product, but as raw material. Every human engineer, physicist, and inventor who looked at your warp drive asked the same question: how can we make this deadlier? The fundamental miscalculation crashed over Velthair like a tidal wave of realization. As people had tried to control humanity by giving them powerful technology, assuming that complexity would ensure dependence. But humans didn't just adopt technology, they evolved it, optimized it, turned it into instruments of war with the same casual efficiency they used to improve kitchen appliances. What happens now? Velthar asked, his voice barely a whisper, the question carrying the weight of his species' future. Morrison's smile was arctic, carrying the kind of cold calculation that had built human empires across their homeworld. You serve us. Your empire, your resources, your technology, your people, all of it belongs to humanity now. You wanted to make us dependent on your technology. Instead, you've made yourselves obsolete. The words echoed through the chamber like the tolling of funeral bells. Around the Corythion homeworld, the human fleet took positions with the precision of a military operation that had been planned for decades rather than months. Each ship represented not just technological superiority, but the kind of strategic thinking that had made humans the dominant species on a planet filled with larger, stronger, more naturally armed competitors. Velthar's mandibles clicked with the rapid-fire rhythm of desperation. But surely there must be some accommodation, some arrangement. There is. Morrison interrupted, his voice carrying the finality of absolute authority. Complete surrender. Your military assets will be integrated into our fleet. Your manufacturing capabilities will serve human expansion. Your scientists will work under human supervision. Your empire will become a human protectorate. The ambassador realized with crystal clarity that his species' greatest strategic mistake had been underestimating humanity's capacity for rapid adaptation. They had treated humans like children playing with adult toys, never imagining that those children would not only master the toys but improve them beyond recognition. As the human fleet settled into occupation positions around the Corythion homeworld, Velthar made a final entry in his personal log, his words carrying the weight of a species' hard-learned wisdom, warning to all species: never give humans your technology. They will not just master it, they will use it to destroy you. What we thought was sharing knowledge was actually handing them the tools of our own conquest. The age of human dominance had begun, accelerated by the very species that had tried to subjugate them. The trap had become the key. The gift had become the weapon, and the teachers had become the students in a masterclass on the dangers of underestimating human ingenuity. In the end, Corathians had learned the most important lesson in galactic politics. When you show humans how something works, you're not just sharing knowledge, you're issuing a challenge. And humans had never met a challenge they couldn't overcome, optimize, and turn into a competitive advantage. Speaking of turning small advantages into massive victories, you'll want to check out my next video about the power of compounding, where I reveal how tiny, consistent improvements can create exponential results over time. Just like these humans turned alien complexity into galactic dominance. The end.